Save the Semantics, episode 231. It is October 14th, 2023. My name is Myro. This is the podcast where I ramble on for a bit about some shit. Whatever that might be. Whatever my mood is. Whatever has taken my attention during the week, during the day. Whatever's on my mind, to an extent. I talk about it here. This past week has been pretty low-key, very low-key, honestly, which is both nice and also, I guess, a little bit of... It's something where I appreciate the times where I don't have a lot going on in my life, and then I also am like, maybe I want to... have something going on, you know what I mean? Where it's like, I can never, in my mind, I can never have kind of both at the same time, if that makes any sense. Or rather, I want to have both of those things. I want to be both relaxed and then also satiated by some activity or something like that. This past week was not, it was one of those where I just, I didn't have a whole lot going on, which again, I very much appreciate. But I also felt sort of unfulfilled, if that makes any sense. But I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right at the moment. Today in particular, I'm in a pretty solid mood as opposed to kind of last week. Last week I went through a little bit of a slump as I kind of discussed. And I'm doing a lot better today, and sort of these last few days. So it's been nice. I haven't had the chance to catch up on 13 Sentinels. It's one of those games where I feel that I need to kind of give it my full attention, undivided. It's definitely not something where I can just sort of play it passively. I need to very much be kind of active when going through that game. It's very detailed. There's a lot of dialogue and a lot of text that goes into that game, which I discussed in sort of my first impressions. So I feel that I need to really set aside time to play that game, which is fine. But I just feel like I haven't been able to do that this week. So, I haven't really made a whole lot. I really haven't made that much progress in the game since last time. But, when I do get the chance, I would like to continue going on because I'm very much, interested in where the story goes and how things develop because, like I said, the game right off the bat just goes kind of balls to the wall. Just shit hits the fan, so it doesn't let up at all. So I'm very intrigued by just kind of seeing how all of the kind of dots connect and just decipher things about each of these characters. So there's a lot going on there for sure. And I'm excited to kind of get back into that sometime in the future, whenever that might be. Anyways, this past week, I didn't have a whole lot going on. I've been sort of somewhat watching some like preseason games, a bit, catching up with some of those highlights, mostly seeing how second and third string players were performing, seeing if they were kind of complementary to the team's rotations, not just the Warriors, but also other teams as well, and kind of seeing how they performed. So it's just kind of creeping into the regular season, right? It's really getting there. Really, next week, we have a little over a week remaining until the regular season begins, and I cannot wait. I'm very excited to to see how that pans out. The thing that's kind of, I feel, I'm gonna go into a bit of a mini rant here. I feel that the league and broadcasters, and I understand that there are these rights and there are these sort of, yeah, legal kind of barriers as to why certain broadcasts are, blacked out, why local broadcasts are blacked out, because they sort of expect you to pay, uh, essentially for cable, or they pay for their specific premium package. But it's all horseshit, you know what I mean? It's so fucking stupid. It is literally the worst kind of, what is it? Sports kind of premium packaging, kind of like paper. It feels sort of like a pay-per-view type of thing. I know it's not the same thing at all, because you're not paying for, you're paying for, a service by, purchasing by purchasing a specific cable, package or whatever. But it just feels so it's so shitty. And it's an issue across the league and in different markets and stuff like that. Um, just certain broadcasting companies sort of being dropped, or certain programs being dropped simply because they don't have the rights to it anymore. I saw this happen with, like, the Trailblazers. For some reason they didn't broadcast their preseason games, so it's like the only way to access it was through some other third party shit, like potentially illegal streaming service. Like, there was no official stream or official broadcast that was available for one of their games, which is kind of ridiculous. Like, I understand it's preseason, I get it, it's not it doesn't matter, but people paying for a service should be expected to be able to view the product. And it is so, it's so limiting, and it's so ridiculous, you know what I mean? Like, the biggest one that I really kind of came across this issue was with, like, League Pass, you know what I mean? This is a pretty common thing that other NBA fans have come across over the years. But if you just get League Pass, you will be able to view pretty much every game except for your local team, because for your local team, like I mentioned, you need to get that specific cable package, or you need to get, like, a specific plan that holds where you're able to watch the local broadcasting. It is just such a limiting experience. It is awful. It is one of the worst, like, it's really one of the worst programming experiences that anyone goes through, I feel. Like, you have to jump through so many fucking loopholes, and you have to buy so many different types of services just to be able to watch your team play. And if you want to get the full experience, you need to, pay more on top of that. I understand League Pass, it works to an extent, but the fact that you can't watch your local broadcast is such a horseshit decision. And I understand, I get it, I know what the reasoning is, but it's bullshit. So I hope that moving forward, and I heard that there's some developments being made within certain NBA kind of communities or NBA teams, like the Suns and, like, I think the Jazz, were essentially trying to create a way for fans to essentially just get like a subscription where they can just watch the Suns and Jazz, like, broadcast directly without having to do all this other nonsense, right? You don't have to worry about these other premium packages, right? So I think that feels like a really nice way to go, especially for someone like me, where it's like, really the main thing is, like, I want to be able to watch the Warriors. I like last year, I wasn't, you know, I was able to watch a good amount of the games because they were nationally broadcast. But if it was nationally broadcast plus the local broadcast, I wasn't able to watch it because I didn't have cable. We gave up cable a long time ago. Now I use like a streaming service instead, which has been good for the most part. But just when it comes to these games, I can't fucking watch them because they expect you to pay more for an extra service. And it is so dumb. It is so ridiculous. Another sort of example for a way to sort of mitigate this issue that I've seen from kind of the Sun side of things was them sending out like antennas so they were able to kind of broadcast, kind of view it without a cable service, which I think is pretty cool. It is kind of funny to to see like I don't know. It is kind of funny, just nowadays especially to rely on antenna to be able to, you know, watch something. But if that works, then I guess that's something that works. But just sort of this, it really just has to do with like the cable. I don't know. It has to do with like the rights of things, the whole premium packaging thing that was sort of a residual thing from cable has kind of persisted, especially in this realm of like sports, but especially with the NBA. And it is so fucking frustrating that it's just ridiculous. And I just don't. It makes me very like, I don't know. Like people want to watch the games, then there's just these like loops and holes that people have to jump through. It's like no wonder people pirate this shit. Like because it's I mean, of course it's there's not on top of the cost. Like if people are able to afford it, then they're able to afford it and watch the game. But it's not just that. It's not just like the, you know, the pricing. It's just the inaccessibility of it. Like it's so ridiculous, you know what I mean? So I have like no qualms with anyone. Of course, like of course I don't, but I have no qualms with people pirating the broadcasts by any means, because just the loopholes that they have to go through, the barriers they have to kind of go through just to be able to watch the games is ridiculous. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's fucking stupid, especially for like international like fans. Like this shit is, it's just impossible. It's almost impossible if you don't pay for, if you aren't able to pay for League Pass. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. That's sort of been my kind of complaint. And just the fact I have to like do research to be able to find a way to watch the Warriors games. It's so fucking stupid. So I'm like trying to figure out what the best way going forward is, because I I'm not buying fucking cable. That's not happening. I'm not buying a cable service just to watch the Warriors. Like I didn't do that last year. I'm not going to do that this year. So I'm wondering if some other streaming service is able to afford like provide that. One option I saw, this is something that I talked about with a friend, is YouTube TV, which I feel is a little pricey. It is very, that is something that is kind of mimicking the cable service product. It's like $70 a month. It's a lot. It's a fuck ton. But apparently it has like a ton of like options and channels and whatnot, and you're able to watch like NBA games and whatnot. So that is cool, and it seems that you're able to watch Warriors games with that service as well. But it's just I don't, you know, we have to like switch plans and shit. So like right now we're using Sling, and Sling offers like a good amount of stuff with like the channels that I kind of want, mostly sports stuff, mostly sports related channels. So YouTube TV would be kind of like a nice, it could be like a nice substitute, because that then I would potentially get those channels on top of like, along with being able to watch the Warriors broadcast. But still, man, it's just like it's a lot to kind of pay for. So I think right now the one option that I'm looking to use is Peacock. They said that they're gonna broadcast like NBC Sports, um, sports programs. So I'm hoping that we're able to watch, the Warriors games through there. Cause then if not, it's like, I don't know. I'm just gonna throw up my hands and I'm, you know, I'll find alternative methods like I did last year. Um, I rarely, I don't, not rarely, but I remember that I just didn't watch a whole lot of games because of this whole blackout issue. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's very frustrating, for sure. So that's kind of been, that's kind of something that I've been looking into a little bit. It's just like, how the fuck am I gonna watch my Warriors play this year? You know what I mean? Am I gonna cough up some extra money to watch these broadcasts? Like, I do really want to watch these games when I have the chance, for sure. But then I'm like also thinking, it's like, how much I also think, like, how much of my time am I actually going to spend as well. So that's something that I have to kind of keep in mind, before making, a purchase or whatever. So yeah, that's been on my mind as of late, as the season draws near. And I have also, I do, maybe I think the beginning of the season, I do also want to try. So League Pass offers, I think, a 7-day free trial or something like that. So I might try to do that, to be able to kind of see if it, I'm sure it's going to be able to work for other teams. I don't doubt that, but again, it's just going to be the issue with, local broadcasts and stuff like that. So ultimately, I don't know if League Pass is going to be worth it to purchase. And it is one of those things, like I've said before, where and I'm very hyped right now, but knowing myself, there are going to be points where I'm not going to be super invested in basketball, because maybe I just have my attention, put elsewhere, or I just don't have the time to watch the games. Like those moments are gonna happen. So if I take that into account, is buying in to the season really worth it? Like, at the initial point, for sure. Like the first month, it's like clockwork. I'm in it. I'm like not watching every game, but I'm looking into every game. I'm seeing the stats. I'm watching the highlights. Like I'm fully invested. But then it dies down, just like just like everything that, not everything, but a lot of things that I might get super invested in at the moment. It's slowly dies out. So I have to kind of keep, knowing myself, I have to keep that in mind before before I make like a purchase like that. So yeah, outside of that, outside of just sort of passively catching up with some basketball, listening to some podcasts, that sort of thing, yeah, it's been a very, again, low-key week. Sort of sense of melancholy, I guess. Not sad, that's not a good word, but melancholy, where it's just sort of like, it's very, like I'm both, I'm feeling all right, but also part of me is like a little, what's the word, a little uneasy, just because, like, there's a lot of shit going on right now in the world, just contemporary issues, a lot of awful things have been happening just kind of around the world, which is not anything new by any means, but that news has been sort of at the forefront of a lot of things, and that shit is very difficult to avoid. So yeah, I think it's sort of it's a mix of a lot of things. So I think melancholy is sort of where I'm at personally. Um, yeah, just sometimes it's very. I find myself, even when I don't want to, get slightly invested in these issues, in these events, and I think that really the best. There's no solution to from my end, like there's not a whole lot that I can personally do, uh, aside from being informed and all of that. Uh, so I think that sometimes when it comes to, periods like these or moments like these where just like some of the most like awful things have occurred within kind of this short period of time. I think that I I you know I for one kind of reflect and you know kind of think about these things, and I sort of put myself kind of in those situations to really think about what other people are going through at the moment. And if I'm able to, I do. Maybe I'll donate or something like that, and I hope that that reaches someone that needs it at the moment and is able to kind of make the best out of that situation. I don't think that's a great way to put it, but hopefully it kind of makes somewhat of an impact, if you want to call it that. So yeah, that's sort of where my headspace is at. Yeah, maybe that has to also do with the fact that I just haven't been super motivated to do a whole lot this week. Just on top of, you know, just on top of my own personal day-to-day kind of goings about. I think it's just sort of the things that have been happening around the world. Yeah, it's so it just happens, man. Like it's like it's hard not to be affected by that. Personally speaking, some people are able to sort of step away from it, and they're able to concentrate within kind of their own sphere and their own kind of circle, which that's how people deal with their personal, how they it depends on how everyone's kind of method of dealing with just the awful nature of this world. It really depends and differs in a lot of ways, and some people are sort of able to kind of retract maybe and just concentrate on their own goals and whatnot, and focus on what they're able to, what's sort of tangible to them, which I think is commendable, and that's something that I try to sort of strive for. But again, it is sometimes very difficult not to be impacted. Not impacted, but it's difficult not to feel something when you hear or see what's been going around the world. So that's that. A bit of a shorter episode today. Yeah, I just didn't have a whole lot to speak on during the week. So that's sort of where I'm at the moment. And I'm hoping that next week I'll be a bit more active. I'll catch up on some more things. Maybe I'll play a little bit more 13 Sentinels or some other games. I know that Super Mario Wonder is coming out in a couple weeks, and that looks fun. So I might pick that up, like I've mentioned, because it might be a little nice sort of uh, a nice little, not alternative. I'm struggling with words here today. It'll be a nice little change of pace from what I've been kind of playing with in terms of, some of the more heavier games, if you want to call it that, or the story focused games. Just stick around and jump around and uh, in a Mario game. That might be fun. I've also never really, other than Odyssey. Yeah, Odyssey is really the only Mario game, like Super Mario. Very kind of. I know it's a 3D Mario game, but it's really the only Mario game that I've really played through. So, and I've played maybe certain levels in some older Mario games, but I've never fully invested my time into it. So maybe this might be the one. This could be a fun little excursion, if you want to call it that. Anyways, that's gonna be it for this week's episode. Thanks for listening. This has been Save the Semantics, signing off.